everybody. This is another terrific every other Thursday training video. I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I am the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library Systems, right up here in the map behind me.
Today, we're going to talk about a quick little modification that you can make to hold slips if you want to provide some extra information about holds, particularly, well, okay. I mentioned this in our previous training video where we had a slip where staff were putting a message in the name field so that when they saw it on the slip, they would treat the hold differently. Basically, they were setting aside holds for staff. They didn't put them out on the public shelf. We wanted to get away from that and not modify patron names in any way. So I created a quick way for people to specify in a patron account whether or not that is a special hold or a private hold, and it would put a message in the slip. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started, here is a quick message about koha-US.
This video is sponsored by koha-US, your place to look for all things Koha. Whether you're just starting out with Koha, or you've been with Koha for a while, koha-US is a great place to find resources, learn new tips and techniques, or connect with other users and libraries. koha-US provides excellent information, both original and curated from around the internet, including the terrific Every Other Day training videos. You will also find several special interest groups to connect with, as well as our general monthly meeting where we gather to talk about the latest Koha news. You should also check out the koha-US annual conference, held at various locations around the US. This is a great opportunity to meet with other users face-to-face, and build your Koha network, as well as new friendships. And of course, don't forget about the great presentations. koha-US is also actively involved in the Koha community by contributing towards new developments. If you are interested in contributing towards koha-US funded developments, join the koha-US membership. Your annual membership builds the funds to sponsor new developments in the community, and as a member, you also help shape koha-US with your membership votes, and receive a discount on the annual conference. You can also contribute towards developments through a direct donation, or by purchasing some great koha-US merchandise through our Threadless account. Visit us at koha-US.org to find out more.
All right, so let's get started. All right, I'm over on the koha-US demo site, and we're looking at slips, and I'm going to go down to the patron, or not the patron, the hold slip for all libraries.
And hold slip is the one that prints when you check an item in, right?
Correct.
And it has a request on it. Okay.
And this hold slip is fairly basic out of the box. And what I'm going to do in this slip is I'm going to modify where it prints the patron or borrower name. I'm going to add some information so that it's going to look at a patron attribute and see whether it's on or off. But before I do that, let's go ahead and create that patron attribute. So I am in the the administration under patron attribute types, and right now we have some basic attributes set, but I'm going to create a new attribute, and I'm going to call this crib hold. You can call it whatever you want as long as you're referencing it correctly.
And as long as you remember what you call it.
Yep. And I'm just going to type private holds in the description, but I recommend that you have something a little bit more descriptive here so that staff understand what this is for. This switch isn't going to do anything other than it's going to be a selector. And I'm going to let it use the authorized value that pre-exists called yes, no, so they can set it to yes or to no. It will behave the same way if it isn't set at all. I haven't seen anything that defaults to a particular answer. So initially it'll look clear. And so I wanted a clear setting and a no setting to behave the same. So basically, the slip is going to look at whether or not yes is set. Otherwise, it won't do anything.
Okay.
So I've
And
got
what are the values for yes, no?
yes and no.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a numeric value.
Well, okay. Good question. Yes, I think it's 1 or 0, but I think I'm just looking at the name.
And whether or not it's okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We can double check that when I put the logic in there. I can show that. Anyways,
Yes, it's
I'm
0 or
going
1.
to- what's that?
0 for no, 1 for yes.
Yes. Okay. So basically, we're setting an attribute for this, a code for this attribute. We're setting a description, and we are linking it to the authorized value category of yes or no. So that's what you have to select from instead of filling in the blank. So I'll leave this for all libraries. I don't have to do anything extra with this. So I'll save this. So now we have that new priv hold patron attribute. And what that's going to end up looking like if I edit a patron, I have down in the attributes, now I have this private holds, and I can set it to yes or no, or I can clear it. And by default, it's clear.
Right.
You could write some jQuery so that it defaults to no when you're creating a patron. You don't have to, if you don't want to, it'll behave the same as a no. And in this case, you know, we're wanting it to default to no or clear. So this is perfect. If you wanted it to default to a yes status, then you would probably need some jQuery in order to do that.
Right.
So let's go over to the notices. So I'm in the tools notices slips, and I'm modifying that hold slip notice. And this is just basically for all libraries. And so what I wanted to do was modify the borrower's name, and I got the code already set. So I'm going to basically highlight this and replace it. And so what this is doing is it's adding a line in the heading 3, the H3 tag, and it's adding this div called priv hold. There's nothing in it. So if I don't assign anything to it, it appears as normal. It's blank. And then I'm adding this little script after this. This is our logic. Now, unfortunately, patron attributes can't be populated by template toolkit at this time.
Right.
So I'm having to use the hungry alligator method. So I am having to use script. You could use some template toolkit logic for this instead. The slips that I'm using at the library, but before I was doing template toolkit, I was using script. So that's why script is here. And it kind of gives you an idea how to do it outside of template toolkit. So
there is a bug in the community, and it's bug 30657 to add patron attributes to the borrower extended attributes to the template toolkit bag of tricks.
And if you attended our conference this year, George and I pointed out a whole slew of things that, you know, we wish that we could get accomplished within template toolkit, so that template toolkit would be easier for everybody. You know, there's nothing to point to say, hey, this is how you specifically do this. It's not an easy process, just doing it from scratch unless you know some of the basics about that. And even if you do, it took me a while to even there's nothing out there to point to, how do you point to a patron attribute, because patron attributes aren't included, but you don't, there's nothing to really,
There's nothing that
out.
says patron attributes are not part of template toolkit. There,
Exactly.
it's template toolkit. There's a lot of fumbling around in the dark.
Yes.
And
The
it'd
one
be nice if somebody would turn on a light or two.
The one nice thing though, if you're using the older method with these different fields that currently exist over on the left-hand side, is if you are doing, if you look under the borrower section, if you create patron attributes, it creates, and you won't see it here because I have to actually, let me reload this. It creates that attribute over there for you, which is really nice. Let me edit that again. And now if I go under there, so I had opened that up before I created the attribute. There's my attribute. So it basically creates, and let me put this back in here since I didn't say that. It basically creates this guy right here.
Right.
So in the script, I'm using some JavaScript logic, looking at this particular attribute, and it's looking to see if it equals yes. So I'm not pointing at the actual code, but looking at the whether it says yes or not.
Right. Okay.
And so it's checking to see if it says yes. If it does, it's going to create this variable called private hold, all spelled out. And it will say private hold in parentheses in uppercase, else it doesn't say anything. And then it looks for this ID for this div that we put into the right after on the line after the name, and it will insert the contents of that variable private hold. So basically it's throwing private hold in there. And so that's all there is to this particular script.
Pretty simple.
Save that. So like I said, that switch doesn't do anything on its own. And this is giving that switch some power, basically, looking at it. And if it's set, it's going to do this. So right now, my account does not have that particular attribute set. I don't know where does it actually show it? Let me go edit this again and show that this is clear. If I set it to no, it's the same thing, but I've got this item that I have placed on hold. Trigger the hold again and let it generate the slip. And let me pull this over here because the preview is hard to see. Here's the name, and there is no private hold message underneath the name. I'm going to cancel this and go back to my account. And I'm going to set that to yes, save that. And now if I generate that slip again, pull that over. Now you'll see that message private hold in that slip.
Cool.
Which, it will be handy for staff members if they see that, if they're looking for that particular message, they can know to set that aside. And so you can use this, for whatever you want. It doesn't have to be necessarily this specific task. You can create different attributes that mean something different for each case. However, like I said, I would recommend when you are creating that switch that you give it a little bit more detail, because right now it just says private holds, and that doesn't mean a whole lot, especially to newer staff. You might want to say, set this for, staff that want to receive their holds directly rather than, the shelf, whatever you want, however much detail you want to put in that message, something that might be a little bit more clear as to what its purpose is. So,
Right. There's a training component that needs to go along with adding a feature like this
yes.
to the system. I like that this could be really configurable. You know, if you've got what, like 20 something libraries? I don't remember how many libraries are in your consortium, but you wouldn't have to
Oh, in
set
ours,
that at, yeah.
about 28. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to make that patron attribute available at all of the libraries. You can just make it available at the ones that want to use it, right?
Technically, yes. I did try to set it to a specific library, and it was still showing up. I'm not sure why. So I don't know if there is a bug with the patron attributes or not, or if I was just doing something wrong.
Well, we've got,
in theory, yes, you're supposed to be able to, if you go into those attributes, you can
right.
pick specific libraries that can see that. Let me try this. I'm going to try a different library, some other library that my patron is not a part of. And it's the patron you're logged in as, not the patron,
right.
the patron that they're a part of, or the library that they're a part of. So let me do that real quick and edit. Well, I left that at yes. If that makes any difference. Oh, it's working here. So
yeah, it works on our system. I have a whole bunch of libraries that have borrower attributes that aren't used in other libraries. So we have
when I was testing on our system, I must have missed something. So
that could be. There are a whole bunch of, I have school district things that attributes that only apply to school district patrons. I have attributes that only apply to specific libraries, and so I've got them all over the place. And that's one of the things I like about the borrower extended attributes, is that you can set them so that if this library needs a checkbox for something that isn't part of the patron form, it can just exist at that one library. So
yeah, and you know, the nice thing about this too, though, you know, is it's so benign.
yeah.
You don't have to worry about it. You know, libraries could use it or leave it.
Right.
And even if the message shows up, if they're not doing anything specifically with that message, okay, so the message shows up in their slip, it's not necessarily hurting anything. You know, it's
yeah.
If it was causing some adverse reaction with the library, then yes, you'd definitely want to limit this to specific libraries that are using it for that purpose. The only
we have a couple of libraries that have a borrower extended attribute that we also have their SIP connections set up so that borrower extended attribute is transmitted through their SIP connection. That can be done with Koha. And so that way there are some services through SIP that can't get the borrower home library out of the field that data is normally in. And so we can send that data through a different field through a borrower attribute. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well,
that is pretty cool. It's a nice way of being able to do that without Template Toolkit, because you know those borrower attributes aren't available through Template Toolkit. So that's one of the things I encourage everybody to do, is go out there and comment on bug 30657 and say, you know, this would be really useful to have in the notices if we could use those attributes, use that data, because what's the point of having data if you can't use it?
Absolutely. And I do encourage people to just search Bugzilla in general on Template Toolkit and become more familiar with it. Comment on the need for documentation and the transitioning from our little hungry alligator fields to Template Toolkit, because Template Toolkit has more ability than
there are a lot of advantages. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I can see a lot of potential for that, but we just don't have documentation or the examples out there that we need. So. All right. Well, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, I highly encourage it, because you will be notified anytime that we post a new video. So please check us out at youtube.com/koha-US. There's no hyphen in there. You can subscribe to the channel. You can like us. You can also subscribe to the playlist if you just want a specific playlist notification. But you won't get those notifications without doing that. So please make sure you do that. You can also check out our videos on the koha-US.org website. And we hope to see you again in 2 weeks.
See you later.